I just want to cover a couple of things with you before we get started. The chat window, you can access it by clicking on the icon. Notice that Ka has already placed something in the chat window. If you have any questions during the session today, please feel free to type them in the chat window, and Ka will either answer those or forward them on to me if it's something that the whole group needs to hear. In addition, if you are on a smaller monitor and you need to have more viewing space, if you scroll down to the bottom right corner, you'll see the 3 dots. If you click on the 3 dots, we have a change layout. If you change the layout and select Spotlight, it will then remove all of the videos of the other people in the webinar. In addition, there is also a full screen option that you can select to also make it a little bigger on your end. If you are running low on bandwidth and you're having some trouble with your video or your audio, you can always turn off your videos, and that will save on your end. When we start talking about Google Slides is basically a presentation application. There are several ways that you can get into Google Slides, one being slides.new will take you into a new Google slide. Another one is you can go into your Google Drive and you can click the New button, Google Slides. You can do a blank presentation or you can create it from a template. Or my preference is if I'm creating a new slide presentation, I like to go to my Drive and I like to go to the exact spot where I want my presentation to be. This is just a personal preference of mine. I know I want it to be in this drive, so I'm going to create it in this drive. I'm in my Drive 2020 PD offerings, so when I create this new presentation, it will appear here instead of being in my Drive, and then I have to move it over. It's telling me it's going to create it in a shared folder, and that's okay. Google's just giving me a little warning there. All right, so when we go into our Google Slides, one of the first things that I like to do is I like to choose my theme. And notice that it already pops it up for us over here. I like to do this at the beginning so that I sort of have an idea of how I'm going to type. I tend to not use the same theme over and over because I like to have variety. As I scroll down, as I click on them, you'll notice that it's changing the template that is currently on my window. Also, as I do that, over here on the left side where I can add a new slide, there's a little arrow pointing down. And if I click that, it's going to show me some templates for this theme. And notice they're all already in the theme colors. If I click over here, it also changes them here. So we're going to select this theme for today. And what we're going to do, this is going to be the basics of slides. We're going to talk about how do we add text, how do we insert images, how do we insert audio, how do we insert video, some of the basic uses. We do have an advanced course that will be offered on the 29th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I believe. So please keep that in mind. When you use the layouts that are already designed for us, and I'm just going to add a couple of them. Notice when I select the slide, it tells me, okay, I can click here to add a title, click here to add a subtitle. That means that it's already formatted for a title. So if I type lesson plan, notice that it already made it in capital and in bold. If I go to my second slide, notice again it says to add a title. The formatting is already there for me. Now that doesn't mean that I can't change it. I can change my formatting at any time, but the templates are there to make it easier for you. So I find it easy and useful to use these. I do sometimes, though, to be honest, I'll pull one up because I like the color. For instance, notice these all have the brown and the black around it. And I know that it offers one that also has green. So if I choose that one, it's blank and it only has items at the bottom. But I can change that. If I don't want this one, I can get the four-headed arrow and click on it. And I can press my delete key and that one is gone. So let's say I want to add something to this. Notice that it's totally blank. So we are going to insert a text box. I get the arrow, I click and drag, and then I can type. And I might help if I could spell. So I now have typed text in a text box. I want to change the formatting of that. I can do that in several ways. I could choose the format pull-down menu, or I could use my shortcuts. So if I want to change the color, let's say I want to make it the brown. I want to make it bold. I want to make it a lot larger. And I'm going to resize my text box just so it's like that. And then I also want to center. So again, I made it bold. I enlarged the font. I changed the color of the font. I can actually change the font if I choose. And now I want to align it within the text box. And I can do left, center, right, or full justified. And I can also do top, middle, or bottom. And I like to choose the middle so that it's nice and centered. If I want to move that any time, again, all I have to do is grab the four-headed arrow and move it. Under Format, we have Format Options, which brings up a couple of different features. The one that I tend to like a lot is the drop shadow. It just adds a little bit of shadowing to it. Sometimes on the fonts it's not as nice, but when I insert something that I put a border around, maybe a picture or a video, I always tend to put a drop shadow because I like the way it looks. If I don't like it, I can remove it. Reflection is sort of like if you're looking at it in a mirror or in a lake, like the reflection. Here you could also change the size. You could rotate, flip, whatever it is that you would like to do with it. If you were in the Google Sheet seminar, webinar this morning, a lot of the formatting is the same within all of the Google apps. You'll find within the Sheets, the Docs, and the Slides, pretty much you format the same way. Okay, so now, what if I want to insert an image? Notice all the options that I have. I can upload from my computer. I can search the web. I can put something in that I have on my drive. I could put something from my Google Photos. I could put it in by URL, or I could actually take a picture using the webcam on my device. We are going to search the web. Notice that it brings up on the right a search screen. I'm just going to say laptop. I'm going to select that one. Notice it says that I have one selected, and I'm going to insert it. Now again, it inserts it. I can move it where I want. Notice the red line as I move from left to right. The red line is telling me that I am directly in the center. My image is in the center from left to right. If I go up and down, I can also get a red line. So if I move to where I can see both, and sometimes that's easier said than done. Okay, I know I'm from side to side, but that is telling me that it is centered. Also, I could put a border. Let's say if I click off of it, you see what it looks like, but I want to put a border around it. I want to say, let's make the border black. Let's change the border weight. And now that's what it looks like. And again, sometimes I add the border because I think it makes it stand out a little more. Again, a personal preference. And I did that again by selecting it, going up to border color. If I don't want it again, I can say transparent. It will take the border away. Let's move to the blank slide and let's insert some audio. Now notice our options. We have My Drive, Shared with Me, or Recents. In My Drive, I know I have this little audio clip, so I'm just going to select that. If you as a teacher wanted to create audio files that you would want to upload for your students and put in your presentations, you can do that. And when I click this, this is the play. Then I can pause it. Now notice that this can be moved wherever I want it to be on the page. And when I do that, when I click on it, notice that we get some different audio playback features over here, and they're under the format options again. It can start playing when I click it, or I could have it start playing automatically. So usually I do it on the click, because I want it to play when I want it to play, not automatically. You have your volume. You can loop it to where it just continuously plays over and over. You can have it to where it will stop when you change slides. And again, you have all the other formatting options that are there. This one, the audio playback, is different because, again, we added an audio file. Let's add a video file. You can search YouTube. You can, if you know the URL, you can do URL, or you can look in your Google Drive. I'm going to just grab one of these from the Sphero class that I taught a while back. I'm going to drag it. I want to put it in the center of my page. There I've got both red lines telling me that it's centered vertically and horizontally. I again like to put borders, so I'm going to put a border around it just so it makes it look a little nicer. And then if I click it, the video will play. Notice as it's playing over here, also on the video playback, we have some new features. I can tell it when to actually start and when to stop. So if we look at this video, it actually is 17 seconds long. So let's say, though, that I only want it to start at, let's start it at 10 seconds. Let's see, did it not keep? I bet, yeah, I bet you're right. Notice that it started at 10 seconds where I told it to. So if you have a longer video and you only want to show a portion of it, you don't have to worry about going in and editing the video so that the students only see the portion that you want. You can change the video playback where you want it to start and stop so that they only see those options. If you don't want them to hear what's being said, you can also mute the audio while the video is playing. Again, there's that drop shadow. If we add it, it adds just enough to sort of make it stand out a little more. Okay, let me jump over here and let's insert a shape. There are lots of shapes we can insert. So when you keep moving to the right, it'll show you what your options are. Arrows. Some of the arrows that I tend to use when I'm doing presentations are the ones that I can actually type within. So let's say that I want to put one here. Okay, so all I did was insert the shape and then clicked inside of it to type. These are handy, especially if you have something that you're wanting to point out to the students, like this is where you're going to start, and you can angle this if you want by grabbing this and just moving it. If you want to resize, you can grab the corner. If you want to change your color, the fill color, notice that the fill color, you can make it anything that you want it to be. You could also change the text color if you need something different. I'm going to remove these boxes. Again, remember, just because they're there doesn't mean that I have to use them. And let's insert a table this time. Oh, no, sorry, I want to go back to the shapes. I want to show you a couple more shapes. I showed you an arrow where you could type, and then you have call-outs. Call-outs are also very helpful. If you just want to put a note beside maybe a picture that you have inserted. All your shapes are the same in that you can format them by changing the font or the fill color. And again, to rotate it, you go to the little circle above it, click on it, and turn, and that will rotate. You can move it wherever you like on your page. And then there are some equation shapes. Those math teachers out there, if you need to add something, and they work the same way with formatting and angling. If we want to add a table, it's very similar to what you do in a Google Doc when you add a table. How many columns do you want? How many rows do you want? Click, and there you have it. Now again, you can move it so that it's centered. These three dots will allow you to resize. Notice how it's adjusting as I click and bring it in. It's keeping equal distancing for the columns and the rows. I just type in it. I can format that, make them in the center. Again, that's on the Align tool. I can make them in the middle. If I decide to make it large again, it will move them with the resizing of the table. You can insert a chart. Notice that it says you can insert a chart from Google Sheets. If you have a chart in Google Sheets and you would like to present that chart in your presentation, you can actually bring it over and link it into your presentation. When you have a linked chart, when you are in Google Sheets and you update the data, which then updates your chart on Google Sheets, when you come back into Google Slides and you're going to use it, it will ask you if you want to update the link. It will know that it is outdated, that it has been updated. So I just clicked on inserting a chart for the pie. This is actually a chart that I have that I've used in other trainings, other prior trainings, just to show you that it will bring it in. This is a linked chart from Google Sheets, and I have brought it into my Google Slide presentation. It will open the source, which means the Google Sheet. If I wanted to, I can unlink it. Let's say I never want this chart to change. I want this data to always be the same. I would unlink it so that it doesn't update. Just a quick little tip there. Let's say I want to do a diagram. There are lots of options over here on the right, and when you click, like let's do hierarchy, then it gives me more options. Notice here that it says how many levels do you need? Well, let's see, I think I might need 4 levels. When I do that, all of the options change to 4 levels. If I go back to 3, the ones that it gives me are going to be 3. The color, I can change it, or I can reset it to go back to the way it was, because it's giving me several options here. If I click on one, what it does is it brings it in to my Google Slide, and then all I have to do is go in and adjust the typing. And very quick, easy access to a nice diagram. All right, let's insert another blank. If I want to move a slide, very easy, I just click it and drag it and drop it where I want it. Word art. If I want to insert word art, I just type the word that I want, and then it says use enter to save. So here's my word art. If I click on a corner, it'll resize, but if I click on the sides, it will also resize. Sometimes it will lose its proportions, as it did there when I brought it down. Notice the E is getting kind of skinny and kind of weird looking. So be careful when you do that. I can change the fill color. Let's make it a pretty pink. If we want to make a border, let's make it black, and let's make the border kind of wide. I can change the font. I could make it bold, italicize it. Again, that is word art. If I want to add a line, there are lots of different lines that we can add. It's our first line, or we can get as fancy as to draw a curved line. Or if I want to scribble, which this one's kind of fun, I actually can draw by using the insert line scribble. Again, you can see you have several options on your lines. If I want to insert a comment, let's say that I'm going to be sharing this and I want someone to look at one of my slides and give me some feedback on what they think, do they like this idea? Do they not like this idea? And I could just type my comment, but let's say that I really want Kyle to be the person to answer my question. Maybe like Benita and Marianne and Kyle and I are all on this presentation file, but I want this to be directed at Kyle. When I type the @ symbol, it started populating these names. So if I just click on him and I say assign to Kyle, and then after his name I could say, what do you think? And then when I assign it, what's going to happen is Kyle is the only person who can go in and answer this comment because I assigned it to only Kyle. So if you ever are collaborating on a file with other individuals and you want to just specifically ask one of those individuals a question about it, that's how you do it. Again, I type the @ symbol. You can also type, let's do comment again. If you type the plus, the plus symbol, it does the same thing. So the plus or the @ symbol. Kyle, do we have any questions so far? Awesome. If I wanted to just insert a new slide, I could, and it inserted the type of slide that I was on. I was on a blank one. Again, I tend to usually use the layout slides just because they're already formatted to fit what I'm using. In viewing, I tend to always have my ruler on. It just helps me out. I'm a very visual person, and I like having the ruler there. If I wanted to see guides, if I tell it to show guides, it will place guides there. Maybe it's just I'm trying to get placement just right of something, and I want to make sure that it's where I want it to be. I did that by view, guides, show guides. I can clear the guides. I could add just a vertical or a horizontal, and now they're gone. Speaker notes. At the bottom of my screen are speaker notes. This is where I can type information to myself. Remember to say, so that while I'm on this particular slide, it's a reminder to me that this is something that I want to voice to my audience. If I don't want the speaker notes on, I just remove that check mark and they disappear. If I want to go full screen, basically it just takes away my menu bars and it says that they are hidden, and I can press escape and they return. Now, I have in the past had people say to me in different training sessions, Kathy, I'm not seeing this bottom row of icons. Notice over here, excuse me, they're not seeing the top row of icons. So what happens is you have this little caret, and if for some reason it is clicked, it will hide your menu bar. So if that ever happens to you and you're missing this, remember that they're hidden and you need to unhide them. This is there. Notice when I clicked on the naming, it took the name of my first slide. Now I can change that if I don't want it to be there, but that's okay. It also is telling me that it's in the folder 2020 PD offerings. This icon is showing me that the status of it. So everything's been saved, and it's just like all the other Google apps that everything is saved automatically. So you make a change, it saves it. You make a change, you save it. This icon is telling me that I could move it. Let's say I decided after all, I really don't want it to be in that folder in which I placed it, so I could move it. Or let's say that when I created it, I didn't stick it in the folder. It's just right now out in my Drive. I could go and move it to where I wanted and select it and then say move it there, and it would move it there for me. I can also create a new folder while I'm in here if I want to create a new folder in which to put it. The star, if I want to star this, and those of you who were in the Google Drive this morning realize that back in our Google Drive, we have a starred folder. If you star this, it will appear in, and here it is, in the Google Drive starred folder. Let's say I know I'm going to be working on this for a couple of days. I star it so that I can quickly go to my Drive, into my starred, and there it is. Let's see. Let's look at the motions. View motion, in case I did that too quickly for someone. On this slide, I need to decide, do I want to have a transition? So what that means is when I'm presenting it, how is the slide going to appear? So right now, there's no slide transition. But if I drop down the arrow, these are my options. So I could say, well, I really want it to slide from the right. And this is how I control the speed. And I could say, well, I want to see what it's going to look like first. Okay, I kind of like that. If I wanted to change it, I'm like, well, I'm not really sure. Let's try a flip. What does that look like? Well, I don't like that at all because this is my first slide. So maybe I should do a fade. Let's try a fade. Just sort of fades in. And remember, I can control how fast that happens. I have to stop it first before I can slow it down maybe a little bit. And let's try it again. Now, let's say that I like that. So let's go, well, one thing, I could apply that transition to every slide. I could just say, okay, I want every one of my slides to have the same transition. It's not as distracting. So you need to always think about your audience, those in your audience. Sometimes if you're just having fun, you know, and it's a presentation with, you know, 2 or 3 and you want it to be a fun, uplifting, you might want to do different transitions. Or if you want to be very calm, you might want to change it and do one transition for all of your slides. So we're going to say for all of them. So now what happens is when I present, when I'm clicking, every slide is going to appear with that transition. Now let's go to a slide that has an object on it. An object could be a text box, an image, a diagram. Those are all considered objects. So I still have my motion up. Slide transition has been decided. Let's say that I want to add some sort of animation to this chart. I have selected it. Notice object animations. I say add an animation. So now I can decide, well, how do I want this chart to appear once my slide appears? I could say it fades in on the click. Let's say that it's going to, let's just do something crazy, fly in from the right, and it's going to be when I click. Let's see what this looks like. So it's waiting for me to click, and there it slides in. Another option would be that it would come in after the previous. So whatever the previous motion is, once it's finished, then my chart will appear. Let's see what that does. So what it did that time, it waited for the slide to appear and finish that fade in transition, and then it brought in the chart. You can animate or put motion to any of your objects on your slide. So if you have 3 or 4 things and you on one slide and you want them to come in at different times, all you have to do is add those animations in your motion window. Let's see. Let's go here. All right, so let's say that I've got a couple of things and I need to make sure that I'm lining them up. You know, that's like I'm trying, and notice that when I'm grabbing the second one, it's telling me by the red line, it's telling me that they're lined up on the bottom. If I move it up a little bit, it's saying, okay, Kathy, these are now aligned in the middle. If I go up, okay, Kathy, they are now aligned on the top. So those red snap or guides are helping me, not happing me. They're helping me. They're making me happy. That's what I was thinking by aligning them. Now, what if, you know, I've got 3 or 4 and it's like, okay, I really don't want to try to have to move them all up there. I am going to select the first one. I'm going to hold down Control, select the second one, and I'm going to hold down Control and select the third one. If I go to Arrange, notice I have an Align, and it says I could align them by the left. Notice it brought them all over and aligned their left sides. Now they are still highlighted, still selected. I could align them by the middle, and because I had already moved them over, so let me undo. Notice how it moved them so that they are in line by the middle of the object. That is doing align. And if I wanted them to be aligned on the top or the middle or the bottom, left, center, or right. If I wanted to center them on the page horizontally or vertically, I could. So let's do horizontally. Notice it kind of jumped them over a little bit. And if those are always going to be moved together, let's say I've got these items and I always want them to be moved together, I can group them. If I collect them into a group, now when I move one, they all 3 are going to move together. I don't have to go back and select each one. They are a group. And if I want to ungroup them, all I have to do is Arrange, Ungroup again. Another thing that is nice is, remember a while ago I inserted this image, and my text box, notice how the text box is behind it. So what if I really wanted this typing to, first of all, be smaller? So let's move it down to, say, 14, which I can't see it now. So what I can do is, while it's selected, I can do Arrange in Order. And I can say, you know what, I want you to bring that to the front. So what I'm telling it is, it is currently behind my little picture, but I want it to come to the front of my picture so that I can see it. And that's exactly what it did. And it now is on the very front. And it's now visible. So that's a way that you can insert different images, and you can insert text on top of your images. you want to voice type your speaker notes, now remember your speaker notes are what's at the bottom. Those are your reminders. If you don't want to type all of that out, you can use your voice typing. When you do that, this little microphone is going to appear, and it's probably the first time you do it, it may say that it needs permission to use your microphone. You always say allow. And if you click it, it is now going to type what I say. I clicked it again to stop. Notice that it did place them. Of course, when I said click it, it thought I said wicked. So it's not perfect, but it saves me from having to type every word. Explore is an item that I like in the Google Apps. And you can get to Explore from Tools, or you can get to Explore from the Explore button in the bottom right corner. And what this does, it allows you to search for different items. When I typed in computer, notice it says web, images, or drive. So if I'm looking for a computer picture, I can tell it, okay, let's use this, and notice that I get a plus sign that says I can insert, or if I wanted to look at it, if I click on it, it brings it up into this window. Notice at the bottom it tells me the image is labeled for commercial use with modification. Only select images that you have confirmed you have the license to use. Once I'm here, I can go left or right through the other images. When I find the one I want, I can insert it. And notice what it does. Notice when I click it, it actually has a link here that tells me what it is. And it lets me know that it was from freesvg.org. So it sort of puts a little bit of a footnote there so that you know where it came from, and you're giving them the recognition that they really should have because it came from their site. Again, that was using the Explore feature. If I wanted to go to Drive, if I knew that I had some things in my Drive that I wanted, I could also do that. Kyle, we doing all right? Awesome. Add-ons are available in almost all of the Google apps. It's not something that we're going to go over today, but add-ons are available. And what add-ons do is they add features to the Google app that the Google app itself cannot do. So there are always add-ons out there. You as a teacher have the rights to add any add-on or extension so that you can use them and try them out. So never hesitate. You know, if there's something that you hear somebody talking about and you want to try it, feel free to do that. You have the rights to do that. These are just showing you the ones that I actually have loaded on mine. Now, if I want to share my presentation, the sharing window should look familiar if you are a Google user. And notice that it's already shared with Benita and Kyle, and it is because I placed it in that shared folder when I first created it. But if I wanted to add someone else, I could just start typing their name, and let's look for Mary Ann. Okay, if I wanted to add Mary Ann, then I could decide, well, what kind of rights do I want to give Mary Ann? Does she need to view? Does she need to comment? Or does she need to actually go in there and create, delete, do whatever? So maybe I just say, I just want Mary Ann to be a viewer. I definitely would want to notify her. If I remove this, it's not going to send her an email. I like to send an email to people letting them know that I've shared something with them, unless, you know, I'm sitting with that person or we've had a conversation and said, okay, I'm going to send that to you, I'll share it, and then they're expecting it. Otherwise, what happens is it gets shared with them and they don't even realize that they have it. But you can type in a little message. Notice that it's telling me what I'm giving her rights to, and then I would send that email and it would go to Marianne. I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to bombard her, but that's how I would share it. If I wanted to share it with a link, right now I have it restricted. So only people that I've added can actually open it with the link. But if I click on the blue, I could change it to where anyone at Boone County Schools that has the link could view it, or I could say anyone with the link. If there's someone outside of the Boone County School organization that needs to view this, then I would want to send them a link and say anyone with the link can view. If you have slides in another slide presentation, you can import them. So if I say import, notice that it's looking for presentations in my drive. It knows that I'm in my drive. If I click this one, is it with me? It doesn't look like it's with me, but we'll see. It brings up that whole presentation. And then I can say, okay, I want this slide and I want this slide. And I can say, keep the original theme, which means keep it in the original formatting that it has, and I can import them. And what it's going to do, it brings those two slides in right beneath where I was sitting in my Google Slide presentation very quickly. You can make a copy of your presentation. You can do the entire presentation or just a slide. One of the features that I like is the downloading, and you can download your presentation into all of these different file formats. I tend to download a lot into PDFs. When I do a training and I want to share my presentation with the class, I will download it as a PDF so that they have their own copy without having all my notes and the additional information that I wouldn't want them to have. Plus, PDFs most people can open up. Links still work in the PDF. Everything works fine. Also, one thing that I do with slides is if I'm creating a video, a lot of times this is where I go to create my title pages or my ending pages, because I will create it in slides using one of the different themes, and then I will download it as a PNG file, and that is the image that I will bring in to my video. I could email it as an attachment. I could rename it. If I wanted to add a shortcut to Drive, I could. I can email my collaborators, which means people who are on the editing with me. The document details will tell me exactly where it is, who's the owner, when I last modified it. And I presented a while ago, but I really didn't say anything about what I was doing. But when I'm ready to show it to a group and I hit the present, the click will move it forward, or I can use the icons down here. If I need a pointer, here's my pointer. If I want to turn on the captions, I can do so. All you have to do is click and click off. And I can hit escape to get out of there, or I could hit the exit. Okay, do I have any questions? All right, so that basically is the beginning of Google Slides. Again, we have another course coming up that we're going to be discussing what else can I do with Google Slides as a teacher? What else can I use it for? If you have any questions, please make sure that you're typing them in the chat window. Yeah, we're going to hang out for about 10 minutes, but before we do that, I want to make you aware of our other resources that are located under the Boone County Schools bookmark. Remember, if you're logged into your Chrome browser, you should have this Boone County Schools bookmark. We have a Teaching with Technology website that will show you the other available trainings. We have digital citizenship resources, some tech tips. We also have a Canvas course for each building, an Infinite Campus teacher gradebook resource. Lots of different resources that Kyle and I have been curating for you in hopes that you'll be able to use those. One final bit of information is we have an evaluation that we would appreciate receiving your feedback. And when you fill out the evaluation, please make sure to spell your name correctly and your email correctly, because your email will receive the certificate automatically and your name will be spelled as you spell it. Kyle is going to put this URL into the chat window. Again, we will hang out here for about 10 more minutes. So if you have any questions, please put them out there. And we appreciate your time and your interest today. Thank you.